Hello everyone. I thought, given that we're nearly at the end of term, it might be a good opportunity just to recap a few things for everybody, and also to talk about what sits ahead, particularly for students. So I'm hoping that both parents and students can bear with me for the next few minutes and hopefully take a lot of this on board. The first thing I want to say is a big thank you to everybody, to parents and to students for their efforts through this term. It's such an unusual term. We've never had one like it, and it was a really interesting experience, I think, for everybody, for me, for all of our school leaders, for teachers, and certainly for students and for families, and so challenging in so many different ways. I think what we saw here ultimately was that the majority of students probably managed reasonably well, and certainly some flew and engaged really well with remote learning, but we also had, and I think this was evident the longer that the break from normal schooling went on, we had an increasing number of students who were really starting to struggle. So when teachers have come back and students have come back over the last few weeks, what we've found is that probably the gap in our classrooms has widened a little bit. So you should be aware from some of the other means of communication that we've had out there that we've put in place some support for students who really need that to make sure that they don't finish up failing and that they do achieve at the best level that they can. So that's going to continue on into next term, particularly for students who might not be staying up to date with their work or ultimately could be at risk of failure. So that's part of our response to support those students. It was challenging for all students to stay engaged and to do everything that they needed to do, but we're in an environment, particularly at Year 12, where all of the assessment ultimately around the state is comparative, that students within the school and students across the state, their assessments need to be compared and ultimately validated against an exam result. So we can't take shortcuts, we can't make excuses for students, and we need to be fairly rigorous with our assessment. That's one of the reasons why when we returned that we ran our scheduled assessment day on the 18th of this month, because it actually became even more important than it would normally be for teachers to get together and to compare results and to be able to try and validate some of those assessments, some of the SACs that were done during the period of remote learning. So that was a critically important day for all of our teachers, I know. The other thing I want to just touch on quickly is the broad COVID-19 issue that's still with us around Australia and certainly here in Victoria. I think we've seen in recent days some concern in certain pockets of Melbourne, and we know that some of those have appeared in schools, probably by the sound of it, through family contacts and so on. But it's a good message for us that we need to remain vigilant with good health practices, good hygiene, making sure that if students and staff are unwell, that we stay away. I know at the end of last week I was unwell for a few days, stayed away, had a test, as everybody seems to be doing, and I think that's good practice. The reality is that the nature of this, it seems that COVID is going to be with us for a period of time. Inevitably, there are probably going to be cases outside Melbourne, more cases. There'll be cases in regional cities, there'll probably be some here ultimately in Bendigo, whether that's in a local business, in our school, in another school, I'm not sure, in family groups. It's just, I think, for all of us being aware that when and if, and hopefully that doesn't happen, but if it does occur, that we still need to understand that there will be processes to be followed, contact tracing to be undertaken, and then we need to get back into the business of schooling. So we hope we don't reach that point, but it's, in my position, it's a good idea to start thinking about what would happen if that occurred, and we've already begun that thinking. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the rest of the year, of course. So it's the break from normal schooling has resulted in us having to juggle all of our dates in the second half of the year. We can't run a normal open day in late July, so we'll be doing that in some fashion online, and you'll be watching our website and Facebook page and other forms of communication for what that will look like. We'll take our students through the subject selection process and enrolment process for incoming students in late July and August. We'll run everything that we need to out through the year 7 to 10 schools and to cater for all of those students from other schools who join us as well, but it's going to look a little bit different. For Year 12 students, and parents of Year 12 students be aware that there are a couple of critical things that happen in Term 3. The first of those is that students need to start thinking, students who are heading off to university need to start thinking about putting in their preferences through VTAC. So we will support students, as we always do, through that. We run information sessions, support students to make sure that they get a timely application in and help them through the choices that they might need to make, provide career support. So that'll be a really supportive process for all of our students. And then of course in early September we're going to have the GAT, which would normally occur in June. So we support students in the lead into that as well. So there's an awful lot that happens through Term 3, and it's a really critical period of time, I think, for all of our students. So we're very much focused on that. We know that we've now seen the dates for Year 12 exams being released. So the first of those will occur on November the 10th and the last one of those on December the 1st. So that's the exam window for students doing Year 12 subjects. And of course, that throws into slight disarray our normal end of year program as well. So our classes are going to continue a little longer than they normally would. We'll get right in close to that exam period, provide students with a small window where they can do some intensive study to be at their best when the exams do commence. We will run our normal graduation event subject to distancing requirements. We're really hopeful that by late October we're able to run that event. But we do enter a really messy little period there. We know that locally we've got a Bendigo Cup public holiday on a Wednesday at the end of October, and I think that the AFL Grand Final might have moved perhaps even into right at the end of October or the beginning of November, and there's probably a public holiday there somewhere just before the Year 12 exams commence or the week before. So we're still waiting to find out a couple of dates to juggle things around, but we'll let everybody know what that looks like. One of the other things that happens at the end of Term 3 is that during the Term 3 holiday break, Term 3 leading into Term 4, we run a series of practice exams for our students, and we'll come back to you and let you know how to book in for those, but it's a really, really important opportunity, and I want to encourage all of our Year 12 students or students who are studying Year 12 VCE subject to take part really fully in those practice exams. It's wonderful preparation for exams, and we'll help you with a booking exercise. It's important that you get that exam experience rather than walking cold to your first big exams in early November. So there's a lot to look forward to, and of course we're still planning and expecting to run our normal awards ceremony on December, in the last week of school in December. So there is an awful lot for us to plan and look forward to, as well as all the other regular events that we have happening around the college. So a lot to look forward to. I want to thank you again for everything that you've done as families to support students across this term, and I hope that you've managed. I hope that you're looking forward to a really good break. I want to finish on with one comment, and that's around time and the use of time. Over the last week or so, probably week and a half, I've been out quite a bit looking around the college and even outside the college grounds, walking around through Rosalind Park, around central Bendigo at times, just for a variety of reasons, sometimes personal reasons, but I'm a little bit concerned when I see students not using their study periods really effectively. It is very important that students use that time productively. So as parents, I hope that what you expect is that when your children are not in class, that they're actually using their school time and those study periods effectively, that they're getting to the library, finding a quiet study space and actually using that time productively. I get concerned when I see students who are off campus or students who are not using that time productively, and we always encourage them to do so. So a strong message from me to students that we expect you to be using those study periods really effectively. And we know that ramps up as we get closer and closer to exams, but I want you to use your time effectively. And please make sure you're right on that from the beginning of Term 3, and make sure that you use the holiday period effectively as well. I think we're all really looking forward to at least a short period of a clean break And I think for our mental and physical health, that'll probably be good. But students, please don't allow this to be just to be 2 weeks where you do very little. Your teachers will have started the second half of year's classes just before the end of this term, so you'll know you'll have work to do. Don't waste the time, use it effectively, and I'll look forward to seeing all of you back here at the beginning of term 3. Thanks everyone.